Montoya Smith, aka Black Socrates. All I ask is that you think.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Montoya Smith, aka Black Socrates, and welcome to the Just My 3 Cents Rapid Fire Live Interactive Podcast, where you can jump on as we discuss race, sex, and culture and try to make it make sense. And together, when you jump on, we can raise the culture. So, again, we try to do these mostly on Wednesday nights. So glad to see some of y'all rocking with me. Please share this broadcast. As I've been doing the last few weeks, I've really just been making it an extension of, as you see behind my head, the Mental Dialogue Talk Show. So Wednesdays have really just been an extension because we have these deep dives that we've been doing for a number of years. For those that don't know, the Mental Dialogue Talk Show is every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Blog Talk Radio, which is an audio-only show. And we discuss race, sex, and culture. We've been doing that for 7 years and got live callers and everything. And so I finally jumped into the video realm where, still wanted to keep that live interactive. That's why you should see the links below the show. If you're on YouTube, Facebook, or the Mr. Dialogue Facebook page or my personal page, you should see the link so you can join tonight's discussion, if you will, as well. So that's the idea, is to keep it interactive, but I've been extending it because as you can imagine, when you do deep dives on shows such as what we're talking tonight, Infidelity, you can imagine there's some things even in a 2-hour show that we didn't cover. And so the gems that we in a sense left out, I wanted to jump into those tonight, and hopefully some of y'all can come on and give us your 3 cents on the discussion. And tonight's discussion is infidelity. Should you go looking for it? Infidelity, should you go looking for it? And my state of mind is absolutely not. But it was a quick one little story. This is kind of lead into tonight. And just keep in mind, you can jump on and give us your 3 cents at any time. Look at the link. Don't be afraid. You can come on via video or keep the video closed. Just type your name in and join the show, and we'll get your 3 cents as well. But a little story that I wanted to mention on Saturday that I left out was I used to drive for Uber for a couple years or whatever. And, if you're an Uber driver, for those that know, you become similar to a cab driver where people may share their different various situations with them. And I once had a guy who was in town. Atlanta is the conference capital of the world, if you will, at least the United States. And so a guy was in town and I was Ubering for the conference and picked the guy up. And I forgot in a sense what led to the conversation, but eventually the guy is breaking down as I'm giving him his ride that he was in town for the conference. And the guy lets me know that he had met this lady at the conference that was physically driving him wild to the extent, he's sharing with me, I'm a complete stranger, that he's considering for the first time ever cheating on his wife. Like, he's sharing that with me, I guess, maybe trying to get my perspective or, and I'm used to this. I've heard some crazy stories via Uber. This wasn't even one of the craziest ones. I've heard some crazy stuff. But again, the guy felt comfortable enough to basically, I guess he's contemplating it. Like, he's sitting here saying he's met this woman today. He's been with his wife, I think at the time, maybe 7 to 15 years. I don't remember how long, but it wasn't a recent marriage, right? But he said he had never even ever considered. And what he was saying, what was blowing his mind about this scenario was he had just met this lady. He had never been in that position, and he just didn't know why he was being overcome with this feeling for somebody he had only spent a little bit of time with earlier in the day. And he basically breaks down to me that over the course of the next couple of days while he was in town for the conference, he was very concerned about how he might act. And I basically just listened to the story. For those that know, I'm a realist. And so I basically understood that, and I should say this, I think I understood it. I'll say that because I felt like throughout my life, I've said this, and I kind of mentioned this to that guy. I've always said that every now and then you may run into a person who may drive you crazy sexually. Like, I'm talking about, when I say drive you crazy, I'm talking about you don't quite know why it's such an overwhelming thing. I'm not saying this is something that happens all the time, but just the way he described it, I said, hey, man, I'm of the belief that every now and then that you run into people who drive you physically or sexually crazy and you don't really quite know why. And I says, if you're in a situation or you're married, it's usually best that that you just stay out of that situation, because whatever for whatever reason, this person is damn near irresistible to you. And so I just kind of shared that thought, and he kind of agreed that he thought this was kind of how this lady, who I kind of out of the blue hanging out with her, literally at this conference, he felt like she might be that for him. And so he felt comforting in the sense that I seemed to be aware that that could happen, because in his mind, he had never thought about it until I said it, and he was literally experiencing it, and he's contemplating it. But then I left him with this story right here. The story I left him with was, and it's crazy, how the universe just kind of brings things to you. And if I recall correctly, I hadn't too long heard this detail or this story that I ended up telling them. And it wasn't even a story. It was just something that I heard that I always never left my mind. And it was so appropriate in this moment. And so what I shared with him was, I had just recently heard that for the most part, no man or woman, say some people have been married for 10 years. So if you take 365 days in a year, that's 3,365 days. So for the most part, no man or woman, for the most part, would want to ruin 3,365 days for one night of sex. And that really hit him. Right, it was a white guy. Really hit him. I says, so I'm just gonna share that with you, because I'm sitting here saying, I get it. I'm not encouraging it. I'm not really telling them one way or the other. I just shared that one thing that, again, taking a 10-year marriage was the example that I had not too long heard before. And I says, and he literally, when I let him out, he grabs me on the shoulder and says, thank you. He believed that little example was going to make the difference. And I just said, for the rest of this conference, you might want to, as best you can, avoid her or whatever. And so I got out thinking, for the most part, that maybe he was able to pull it off. I didn't pick the guy up for the next couple of days, so there's no way for me to know to this day. Now let me dive into another aspect that we did. I wanted to share that story on the show and didn't get to, but let me dive into another aspect, and it's the perfect segue. It's something that we also didn't really get to deep dive into on Saturday show. And real, just to highlight the Mental Dialogue show Saturday was, can a side chick or side dick save your marriage? So that was the deep dive on Saturday. Today is infidelity. Stop looking for it. And so, again, I don't know if that man did, but he said, thank you. I felt like I might have made a difference in whether he decided to cheat or not by sharing that story. But the reality is, I don't know. He was out of town. And if he did do it and went back home, it's more likely that if he did it, his wife possibly would have never found out, just based on the scenario, because he needed to be here in Atlanta for work anyway. So even if he did it, his wife may not have found out. So let's get into the stop looking for it, because we didn't go too deep on this on Saturday. For anybody listening, if you like what you're hearing, please share this. I'm usually bad about saying that, so I'm trying to get in a better habit of saying share this. If you so happen to be watching on YouTube, like the page. All these things help grow what I'm doing. I'm just now moving into this video world, if you will. I'm used to just being audio only. To be honest, I don't even really care to be on camera, but hey, this is the thing. People want to watch you talk. A little weird to me. I'm just keeping it a buck. But either way, I'm trying to figure that thing out. So please like and share this broadcast, if you will. So moving into infidelity, stop looking for it. Also, please be willing to jump on here with us. I think I'll make sure I'm looking at the comments as well. Real quick. Cool. You finally caught me live, no doubt. Okay, Bethany says, let me read these comments real quick. She says, I don't think you should go looking for it unless you're prepared to accept and deal with the truth, and then seek a resolution to heal from the hurt. Infidelity is most people's deal. breakers, but it ain't everyone. I think she said readers, but I'm pretty sure she meant breakers. She says that's those animal instincts. Yeah, I think so too. I think that absolutely was part of what was happening with that guy who said he had never even thought about cheating on his wife, and he ran into a woman all of a sudden at a conference, and she was driving him crazy. So I do agree with you, Bethany. That was probably those animal instincts. But anyway, don't go looking for it. So again, had that man again, I think I may have kept him from doing it. But in the event that he did, because again, I don't know, I didn't pick him up again. He was out of town. Let's say he did it or did not do it, right? But let's say he did it, and so there's this idea that him going back in town again, he had never thought to do it. Had he did, if he did it, it may have weighed on his conscience because he said in all his years he had never thought or wanted to cheat on his wife. It was crazy that he was having the thoughts then. So let's say he didn't take my, in a sense, what I took and use it to resist the situation, and he messed it up. And he gets home, and his wife, again, with his schedule, she wouldn't know anything about it. And so as I get into this reality that I'm about to speak, let me say this. What I like to have honest conversation. So the real conversation that I'm having here is not about what I believe in or what I condone. It's again, go listen to Saturday show because we deep dove into all kind of scenarios where cheating happens. Like again, the question was, can we save? Can a side dick or side chick save a marriage? Which sounds like a crazy question, but I've seen it do that in my lifetime. Again, it's not about justifying; it's about every scenario is very different. The particulars matters. But going into this, should you go look for it? I am of the belief you absolutely should never go looking for it. Never should go looking for it, even if you quote unquote suspect it. And I'm using that example just to segue in his situation. If he did, in that, at least in that example, his wife more than likely would never know because he had to be out of town anyway. And some people may look at that like, well, I think that's crazy or that's being dishonest within the marriage. Well, I also had a show in the past where if someone cheated, would you want to know? We had people calling in. A lot of people wanted to know. I personally was telling people on that show, I would never want to know. So put me in the scenario I just gave you. My wife's out of town, if you will. I'm at home. And let's put my wife just like that dude. She's never thought about it. She runs some guy. Of course, I don't want her to. I hope she never would. But in the event that she messes this up, again, this is not something that I'm comfortable with. But in the reality that she did mess this up, she comes back into town and I don't know. And we are happily married. I don't want her to break up my bliss. But if this is not the reason I'm saying to never go look for it, I have a deeper reason for it. Any of y'all that have your 3 cents, please click the link and join me. I don't want to be on here just with myself trying to figure this out. But with that said, that's my mindset. You don't have to feel like me. You don't have to agree that I wouldn't want my happiness broke up. Don't make a lot of sense. If I think we're good, especially if it's a one-time BS scenario. Again, this is not me saying I'm okay with it. However, what you don't know cannot hurt you. And if we are doing good, and she went out of town, and I think it was a good trip, and of course, as long as she come home and give me some, because I'm gonna be missing it, right? Then I'm gonna know, and why would she or should she ever tell me, right? Oh, matter of fact, let me tell you this. I left the guy. That reminds me. I forgot about this. I didn't even think about this. I did leave the guy with this before he got out of my Uber. He says, thank you for me giving the scenario. Hope y'all caught what I said earlier. But I did leave him. I said, again, I told him this. I said, I hope you listen to that. The last thing I would ever want you to do is mess up your marriage. I said, I hope you avoid her. That's what I recommend. In the event that you mess up, never ever tell your wife. That's what I told him. I just gave it to him straight factual. Again, you don't have to agree with me, but that's what I told that guy. So the idea of why it is silly to go looking for it, and we did talk about this part a little bit on the show. So we talked about myself. I was on the show, and I had my Queen of Intellect co-host, Deasia Robinson. We both admitted that in the past we've been herself being a side chick, and I've been a maintenance man. Unfortunately, in my early 20s and even in my early 30s, on more than one occasion, unfortunately. So I'll admit that here just to give some context to what I'm saying. So we both talked about this. Again, Saturday was our first time having this dialogue, but we agreed that in being in opposition, one thing of being in that side piece position, if you will, of being in that position, one thing that I definitely learned, and I think people should pay attention to, because the real reason we're having this discussion is not about condoning it. It's about having real discussions that might even help you in your own scenario. So the one thing that myself and Deasia both agree, being in the side piece position, that one thing that I've seen firsthand on more than one occasion drive someone to cheat. And I know some people are like, that's just somebody's choice. I'm not saying that it's not. But one thing that definitely don't help is a over possessive mate. A possessive mate that is always worrying about trying to keep up and follow up with what you're doing, right? I've seen and I firsthand experienced it, been on the side piece end of this unfortunately, more than one time, just keeping it a buck. But and watched other people say the same thing. I've literally watched people who were not doing anything in a sense to cheat on their spouse, right? But their spouse was always on them and bringing up issues due to their own insecurities, their own possessiveness, that eventually it drove the person who was not cheating again, I'm not saying it was their fault, but I just want to be honest about this dialogue. There almost became a situation where I'm getting in trouble anyway. I'm having fights about some shit I ain't even doing, or this looked wrong, or who was that person, and all these situations in which they wasn't even looking to cheat, but their possessive, over-controlling significant other, right, was making them bother them so much that I've been that person before, come along at the right time, say the right thing, and here it is. In the situations I was in, these sisters, for the most part, hadn't considered it. But, the people that had tried them, and, y'all, as women, y'all always got men coming at you, right? For the most part, not every woman, but I'm just saying. So my approach wasn't their first approach, but I just completely understand how controlling people could do that. So I knew how to play on that. Just, being honest, because here I am wanting what I want, being disrespectful of the marriage. Not a cool thing to do. Don't like to admit that, but just calling it what it is. And so knowing that the controlling and possessiveness, there's that was weighing on them. So in having that dialogue, it's like, damn, I'm getting in trouble anyway. And I watch people who I could say probably, in my opinion, probably wouldn't have stepped out had the person not been like that. And so I'm bringing that up because that's not the only way somebody goes and cheat, right? But the reason I'm bringing that up is because I want to explain why it is completely ludicrous to go looking for it. Is I'm going to bring it from two aspects. I mentioned my scenario that if I was flipped and I was the husband at home and my wife's out of town and she slips up, one time on a trip, I'm not okay with it, but I don't want to know about it. Keep our marriage in a good space. But I don't want to paint just a pretty picture. A lot of times when infidelity is happening, right, there's a lot more. Sometimes the marriage is not going that great, right? It's not going, in a sense, good enough. Let me get my girl Deasia jumping on this thing to support her brother. Let me finish this thought, Queen, and I'll get you in here. So the aspect of I lost my train of thought. I was just kind of saying that, why you wouldn't want to, the reason why you completely never want to chase it is I don't want to paint a pretty picture that, hey, the situation is going good, so, I don't want my wife to come home and break up my bliss. Well, the reality is a lot of times when infidelity is happening, it's something else underlying a lot of times that will eventually lead people. Now, some people that's just who they are and they cheat. But I kind of want to set them aside for a second for what I'm saying now. So in the sense that there's something going wrong, we may even be having troubles in the marriage, and it might be part of the reason why she's stepping out, if you will. You know what I mean? And so a lot of people will say, well, that's even more reason I want to figure it out and want to know. And I'm saying you still don't want to know for this reason. If we are trying to overcome whatever, or we realize there's an issue and we're trying to figure it out, well, the last thing on top of that I want to find out is that she's cheating. Like, we're already having trouble. So to add that to it, that might break the straw that breaks the camel's back. And if we got children, we didn't mess this up. So even when things are not going well, I want to leave that hurt and pain out of it if she's figured out how to do this without me finding out. And for me, she would have to do something super obvious, because you should never go chasing waterfalls. Go ahead, Deasia.
You're absolutely right about that. That's the one thing I've always lived by. Is I ain't finna do no stupid. I don't want to go look for something that's gonna actually hurt me. If everything is going good, if that particular person haven't given me any reason to doubt, even if I have a reason to doubt, I'm still not gonna go looking for any evidence or anything, because my thing is I'm all about making an executive decision in your life. Something has to be out of order for you to even start thinking about this person is stepping out. So the bottom line is maybe it's a thing where they are acting different now, or their scheduling has changed in a drastic way. Um, they're not doing the things that they used to do before. They're not making you feel like they used to make you feel. They're not doing what it was that captivated you. So now you're feeling like it's something else that is going on. Whenever you start feeling like it's something that's going on, you start responding. You start acting like it's something going on yourself. So that becomes your reality. So if you're in a situation where you feel like somebody is cheating on you, that's your reality. You're handling that person like they're cheating on you, regardless if you find out they're actually cheating or not. I always found it absolutely crazy for people to expect a cheater to confess. Like, people will start trying to find what they're doing and then come back and confront them and be like, "Oh, I just want you to tell the truth." Well, that's not what a cheater does. That's an oxymoron to expect the truth out of a cheater. So
I never heard it like that,
yeah,
but you damn right. Yeah,
it's an
this person is a cheater.
oxymoron. You know
Yeah,
what
this
I'm
person
saying?
is a cheater.
Yeah. So you like coming to a cheater. I need you to be honest. If they were an honest person, they wouldn't be cheating. Like, it don't work like that. So the thing is you can make a decision just based on that. You ain't gotta go find extra evidence or something to hurt you because you're already in pain. And I don't know if people do that to kind of like validate it, or they feel like they tripping or something, or whatever the case may be, but you're not feeling that way for no reason. My suggestion is probably just to address the root of the issue, like have more so having a conversation and just say, "Hey babe, you know
What's different?
you ain't doing what you used to do, and I don't like this." Or something that feels strange to me. Not necessarily confronting it in a way of you're saying I think you're cheating, but just having like a conversation with your partner to see where y'all at, type of thing, to kind of test the temperature. Don't just be accusing them or anything, because a person once a person figure out you on their trail, they're not gonna stop what they're doing. They just gonna find a different way to do it. So
Matter
if
of
you
fact, let
come
me speak to that. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
so if
Finish
you're
that.
confronting them, and you're telling them how you caught them, and you're giving them all of that, you just teaching a player a better way to play. Even, for example, when I was a young kid and used to get in trouble as a kid, because I do sneaking shit, stealing the car and all of that, they used to tell me how they knew that I stole the car. Now I figured out how to steal the car
Without
without
them
them
knowing.
knowing, because they told me how. They told me everything that they're looking at. So now I know how to do it, and I'm just playing right under their nose. And that's the same thing with you confronting
Yeah.
your partner or whatever.
I,
And
yeah, let me give
and
an
it
example of this, because this is I
yeah.
gotta sneak this in, because this is one of the things I forgot to mention on Saturday. So everybody, this is Destiny Asia. She was my Queens of Intellect. She held me down as my co-host on Saturday. So thanks for jumping on, Queen. You always have so much game, but again, we just like to try to have an honest conversation. And I want to highlight this with her coming on. The first thing she said on the show on Saturday, and I thought this was so dope, is because we really went the full. I mentioned this going into the show. We went the full gamut. We had a conversation about wholesome relationships, and even you was asking like, why are you doing a show about side pieces? The very next week. But you said coming on the show, you said it all makes sense when we're going to be honest about even having the wholesome relationship. We also got to talk about the realities of things that could happen within relationships, and we all know infidelity is a prevalent issue for why a lot of people don't make it, if you will. So it is a prevalent issue. So how do we have honest conversations if we talk about what it looks like to be whole without helping people figure out what to do or deal with when things are not always whole, but especially if they want to maintain it and make it for children, which is something that I always advocate: healthy marriage before children. And even the healthiest marriages go through things. Hopefully not infidelity, but it could be one of those things. So I wanted to highlight that Deasia figured that out coming onto the show. So appreciate you for that. But here's a quick example of what you're talking about, how somebody knows how to move. I remember hearing about this one woman who was married. At this time, she probably had been married close to 30 years, maybe a little over 30 years when I met her. This has been almost 20 years ago now. Maybe 20 something years. I'll say that.
Telling your age.
I know, right? I don't mind. I tell people all the time. But anyway, so at this time, I met her through this, this one friend or whatever, and come to find out, because I was real good friends with her best friend, she ended up breaking down how controlling her husband was. And I've, sometimes you hear about these over the top controlling husbands or whatever, but this was the first one I kind of knew because I met him to the degree. To the degree, I'll just get, for example, this dude tap phones, tapping his own phones. So that's just an over the top controlling guy or whatever. And he was always suspicious of whoever. That's just who he was. That was exactly who he was, tapping phones. Well, as I got to know them, come to find out, when you said you kind of show people what to do and what not to do when you go behind. Well, come to find out, this woman had been regularly cheating on this guy, as paranoid as he was, as crazy as he was, talking about very crazy. Even I heard about it, even before, even some police issues, he was so crazy, right? They didn't give me all the details, but when they were younger, he was even over the top, crazier than what I was hearing then. But she had an affair with a guy that she would only see once a year. She had this one health checkup that she had to take. This particular hospital was over an hour or something away, and she would go to that checkup once a year. That's when she would see her person with this over the top tap phones, keep tabs of her every day as long as she was in town. But the one trip she could take was that one health trip, and they literally at this point had only seen each other 8 times in the last 8 years. By the time they was telling me the story, they would literally see each other once a day. So what that also tells me on the wasting is how much of a waste of time it is to be chasing behind somebody. But what it ultimately tells me, like you already mentioned, you can't stop another human from doing anything.
Mm-mm.
So because that's the coldest example I ever say. They only saw each other once a year on that trip. No other coordination except for that day. Like that was their routine for years at this point. You can't stop a helper or a brother, a man from doing a damn thing. And since you can't stop another adult from doing anything, it's a complete waste of time of trying to control another human being. And to me, that's the prime example of if somebody want to do it, like you said, they gonna do it. So that's 2 reasons to me to not chase behind. Can't chase behind because it's gonna be a waste of time if they want to do it. And then the worst part is what I said before. If you're being controlling and this person ain't doing it, you and I both, I was telling them, I don't know if you saw this part, but I was telling them on this show how we've seen that drive somebody who probably wouldn't even have stepped out. I've experienced, I've been on the side piece end of it, knowing this person probably wouldn't even be here if the person they was dealing with wasn't as possessive and as insecure as they was. And you said you've seen that too. So you lose either way. They ain't even doing nothing. You possibly drive them to do it. And then you chasing behind them. If you that guy with the phone taps and, then beat up people and went to jail over his wife, and she still done found that one day a year. You know what I'm saying? One day a year, she's getting out. You can't.
I was actually on the receiving end of that. I was in a relationship where I had someone, it wasn't as dramatic as this particular guy. And that's another thing too, like I was saying about making an executive decision in your life. I was in a situation where I was constantly getting accused all the time. And I was absolutely in love with this man. But I had no intentions on doing anything, never thought about doing anything, but I was just being accused and I was being treated like I was doing it. So really me doing it wouldn't have mattered because you're accusing me, you believe I'm doing it, you're staying here anyway. So if I was doing it or not, it really wouldn't matter. But in my particular situation, I just went ahead and left because what a lot of people don't understand too is because of that conversation we had Saturday is like with a side chick or a side dick make you stay or make the relationship work or make it better or whatever. I could have what ended up happening. The reason why she was even able to stay in a relationship with that guy for that length of time was because she had an outlet, so I could have been staying in a relationship for whatever security of that the relationship gives, just to say I got a man or whatever. I could have stayed there, and I could have stepped out and slept with somebody else because he thought I was anyway, but I didn't want to be treated like that. So instead of staying in that situation, it's like, you know what, let me go ahead and leave you alone. A lot of people need to understand that you can walk away from a relationship. You don't have to stay and play bullshit games. And that's an issue too that people have, like thinking that, oh, okay, let's play all these different mind games and we gonna go tit for tat. You do this, I'm gonna show you that two can play that game or whatever. To the extent where this dude is tapping the phone, I will have fear for my life. At that particular point, yeah, you could make an excuse for the fact that you're cheating because of his behavior, but you also got to look at yourself as like, what type of time, how you feel about yourself, and what do you feel like you deserve and your worth that you even putting up with this.
No, absolutely. And here's the lesson again. We're just having an honest conversation about infidelity, right? But here's the lesson that if people have never even considered maybe some of what they're hearing now, the lesson I think is becoming aware of, as I've already kind of mentioned, that you can't control another person. And to that matters very much so, I think, because as children in a world which when you're a baby, everything that you love is yours as a baby, right? Your toys is yours, your mama is yours, your daddy is yours. Like, I'm talking about it as a child. So, you have to get taught to share, right? People have to teach you to share because everything is yours. But the thing that hardly ever happens in a conversation when it comes to relationship dynamics is a lot of people never learn that love does not equal possession. And so because they never learn it, there's this idea of that I should be able to control another person. Now, what I'm saying has nothing to do with you should be wanting or allowing someone to cheat on you. That's not what I'm saying whatsoever. Right. But if you have a complete understanding that you can't control another person and that the energy that could kind of, in a sense, drive your significant elder to step out, or they don't ever step out, but you're causing fights in your relationship, making your relationship hard because of your own insecurities and control. The issue is the insecurities. You don't help your situation by being insecure. You don't help your situation. Now, on the other hand, being completely respectful of your spouse and your spouse, there are things that as long as you and your spouse come to agreement that, hey, there are certain things you don't want to make your husband or your wife look bad, right? So I understand putting in parameters between within a marriage in which you don't, just because I'm not finna chase behind you, you still shouldn't have me out here looking bad. You still should not have me out here bad. Again, I don't even want you stepping out. I don't want to step out. But in the event, I remember old school brothers and stuff, sometimes be having whole families on the side. Not saying that's okay, not trying to justify it, but in the age of hip hop, love and hip hop era, we sit here and watch people cheat live on TV and still make it. Like you couldn't be out there bad, but the reason they couldn't be out there bad in the past, now this may sound like justification, but I still want to understand the respect of a marriage situation. The reason they couldn't be out there bad wasn't just the idea of they didn't want their wife to find out. If you even stepped out on the side back in the day, you was looked down upon amongst other men if you embarrassed your wife. So the way you was out there, vice versa too. If a woman, because women step out damn near just as much as men, that's a reality, as much as we like to talk about it. But if a wife
better at it.
Yeah, definitely better at it. I'll give you credit. Y'all way better at it than men are. So I'll give you that credit. But I'm just saying, if you step out there, because a lot of marriages survive infidelity, right? But usually, if they survive it, in most cases, it's because you ain't put them out there. You ain't put the other one out there bad. So you can get past it if there's not a whole public humiliation, because humans got egos, right? We should, and to a degree, that's okay. But if you put me out there bad, then you're probably going to really end the situation versus any chance you had of salvaging it had it been done with some level of respect. But the craziness that I see out there now is people ain't even, again, it may sound like I'm justifying it, but it's being real about the idea of I don't put my significant other out there bad. So there's parameters you can have out, parameters amongst yourselves that get you agree to follow that'll maybe even keep you out of situations. You know what I mean? Like whatever parameter you want to have with your wife, your husband and wife, that keeps you out of situation. Or we don't have a woman come in the house, or we don't have a man come in the house, you know what I'm saying, when the other one's not there. Like some people look at that as an over-the-top thing. I'm saying that's absolutely respectful within a marriage, but it should not change that you as the individual waste any time chasing behind your significant other. And in the situation in which you're married, even with you suspecting it, typically there is an underlying issue, and quite often if you can fix that underlying issue, because you and I talked about this as well on Saturday, Deasia, where people that's on the side, times a lot of them get caught up in the feelings to the degree that they become foolish and want that person to leave their husband or wife, right? And hardly ever does that ever happen. And we both talked about scenarios in which the husband and or wife stay with that person, which happens more times than not. They end up working out their issues, even with the however long the infidelity lasted. Meaning, you worked on your underlying issue, maybe the infidelity goes away. So another reason to never chase it. No reasons to chase it. There's no win in just needing to know, or like you said, that shit was funny to hell to me. Getting a cheater to tell the truth, and the reality is, your cheating husband or your cheating wife, who if they have reason, because most people say, well, why are they even saying that they're cheating? Everybody says that, right? But the reality is, if you're invested and there's children involved and there's a whole situation involved and there's legacy involved and money being passed down, there's a whole lot of reasons to stay, even though you stepped out here. And so they have reason to stay. They, and even when their significant other catch feelings, say, well, will you leave your wife or your husband? Sometimes they play the game and act like they will, and some of them are just honest, like, no, that's never an option. I'm not leaving my wife, because they have reason to stay. That may sound crazy to a lot of people, but at the end of the day, that person, as a cheater, is not going to tell their significant other the truth because they want to stay. I understand that people call that selfish, but you're gonna break up a family over something that could be just a moment. It could be a one night, or like we said, we gave honest scenarios where people survive years of infidelity to only work it out and be just fine years later. Go ahead, Queen.
Yeah, and you know what? We actually had a conversation. We delved into this on my show, Death of Deasia, on that show. Remember, you came on with me on the Good Men Cheat Too?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so the thing is, so here's the thing. Everybody's threshold for BS is different. Everybody's deal breakers are actually different. People, feel like because society automatically be like, oh, he cheated, you stupid for staying or whatever. And the thing is, this is the reason why people need to keep things to themselves if they are having problems in their relationship. People be saying keep your business private or keep your relationship private, and they be thinking it's about, okay, you posted who you with or something like that. No, it's your actual business. The things that you're experiencing, what you're going through, that's what you need to keep private. No, when you get in public, you need to be trying to save. You're supposed to save face. You're not supposed, the public shouldn't be knowing what's going on or what have you. The thing is you could be with a man or a woman that is doing everything perfect. They're absolutely good to you. This is the best thing that has ever happened to you. And they messed around and fucked around with somebody else. Y'all know about it. And it might hurt you and it might crush you. You mean to tell me this one thing, because they went and got them a little slice of pussy or something like that, you finna jump out the window and leave this man that's doing every single thing else completely right, and this is his issue? Now, if that's your deal breaker, that's cool, but we're talking about people that's not your deal breaker. you will feel more pressure to try and lead this person if you let your friends know you want to vent to your friend. Girl, look, Tyrone did this to me. I can't believe Tyrone did this and stuff like that. So now you done invited people into your business. They know what's going on. You don't even want to lead your man. But you more pressure by the fact that because you're staying, you looking stupid to them. And the same people that you're looking stupid to, they wouldn't even lead a man that ain't even half as good as yours. You know what I'm saying?
Ooh.
But they'll make you feel pressure to leave yours or whatever. And then what y'all gonna be doing? You know what I'm saying? Out still in the streets or whatever the case may be, having hot girl summers and looking for and trying to find that very same guy and sitting up here having these feelings of, you know what, I probably should have did more. We probably should have did more to work this out. Because sometimes the situations ain't that doggone serious, you know. But it just depends on the person, you know.
Right.
For me, you gotta weigh out your options. You gotta, you know, deal with what's good and what's bad. That's the reason why I did say that this was a good show to have when you was not the show about the side chicks or side dicks keep the relationship together. Mm-hmm. I did think it was some Jerry Springer type stuff at first, considering you just had a show about being wholesome. But then when you think about it, all of these different things in relationships in order, you think people been married 20, 30 years and it ain't been some BS in the game? It might not always be infidelity, but I'm of the belief these people that's been married 20, 30, 40 years, they met each other when they were still probably in their teens or 20s or something like that. 9 times out of 10, they done
at least one of them. At least one of them. At least one of them.
At least one of them. And that's not if they haven't, that's a rare case. I don't know.
Well, actually, let me say this real quick though, DH, because people think that. So, because what happens is you got to remember how far bad news and tragic travels, right? And so we always, as a society, we have very little insight in how things that are tragic to us, how it only takes a few people to do them to make it feel like it's hurting the entire society. So for years, I've been trying to look at the numbers, and I've yet to see a study that says even 30% of people cheat. And you know, they do them as anonymous as possible. And I'm talking about, I've been looking at this for years. But what I typically see relatively is when they ask, you know, people in marriages, you know, how, you know, whatever, like I say, anonymously as possible. I'm not saying they're accurate. I'm not there trying to put nobody being accurate. But I'm saying I've been, you know, me as a numbers person, been watching this for years. Yeah. Let me throw this out real quick. I just want to throw out that what I see consistently is that men cheat just a little more. I'm talking about in everyone I've ever seen, but most marriages don't seem to have a situation where either one of them have cheated, believe it or not. Now, keep in mind, a lot of cheating that we learn about today is our playing marriage shit, our boyfriend, girlfriend shit. That's the stories that we're hearing all the time. Marriages, believe it or not, may not be suffering as much as we think from infidelity, just based on
and I don't believe like marriages like are necessarily suffering from infidelity, but we just have to be honest that, you know, if you've been married, I'm talking about like long 20, 30 years or whatever. Yeah, that's something along those lines may have came up, you know, and so you're not gonna let all that go to shit just because of somebody stepped out or whatever. But as far as the survey is concerned and the numbers or whatever, you know, I ain't really gonna trust the survey when they asking cheating people that, you know, because you asking lying ass people to give a survey and all the numbers might not be accurate, but I trust it. I know that, you know, I know that the that people sometimes they actually end up getting influenced about what's going on in society and things like that. And they hear these different scenarios and they feel like things are going on at a larger scale than what it actually is going on. And that's not the case. So I am fully aware of that. But I wanted to ask you this too, because I kind of like lost my train of thought on the other thing. You say that you had said something about not being able, you can't.
Yeah, that's where I'm about to go right now.
You can't cheat on a girlfriend or a boyfriend. You can only cheat on
Yep, here you go. I'm
Totally
about to
cheat
go over
on
it
your
right
wife
now.
or your husband.
Right. So I learned that probably about 5-6 years ago. Never thought about it. You may not remember this, but we've talked about this on the show. I'm pretty sure you were my co-host when this came up in the past. It may not have been you, but I thought it was you. This has been some years ago now. But at the end of the day, the whole idea of boyfriend, girlfriend, you can't play married. You can't even play married. But in our generation, in the hip-hop generation, we've grown up to play married. Because that's what boyfriend and girlfriend to a degree. Now, I'm not saying that everybody looks at boyfriend and girlfriend as intimate. You know, typically you got to get a little further along to where you tie up to that degree, right? But there's plenty of boyfriend and girlfriends who have added the concept of infidelity to boyfriend and girlfriend. So that aspect of you being loyal to to your boyfriend or girlfriend is an aspect of playing married, because typically that vow always, in a sense, applies to who you marry, right? You definitely have made the commitment outside of, maybe polyamorous situations where people agree to, more than one wife and that kind of stuff. But for those in Western society that, so-called buy into setting up a monogamous situation, not that humans are naturally monogamous, but there's a lot of good reasons why humans have agreed to it based on legacy for a lot of years. I'm kind of going out around the bush to come around to it. But anyway, so when it comes to boyfriend and girlfriend, it's actually a joke that our culture has bought into, that you could actually be faithful to a boyfriend and girlfriend. And so when you're playing married, we're literally been up here in our lives, have experienced a lot of hurt in a boyfriend-girlfriend situation because we expected someone to keep a verbal promise because we said we're committing to each other as boyfriend and girlfriend. The reality is, we all know this is hard as hell when you marry, right? To say, this is my last piece of pussy. This is my last dick I'm ever going to get for the next 20, 30 years of my life. We know how hard that is. So it's part of the reason, I'm being a little facetious with this, but it's part of the reason we ain't just readily signing up to marry whoever our boyfriend or girlfriend. I'm just, whatever. Like, we ain't readily signing up there. We trying to test this person out to say, okay, am I going to be okay with this person being my last piece of sex, last person I have sex with? But it's a joke at that time. The reason that it's a joke, then subconsciously, no matter what, if you're not their wife and you've been together, you could be together 1 year, 10, if you're crazy enough to be in a 10-year boyfriend girlfriend situation. Few people are, some crazy people are. But at the end of the day, a man, if his wife come along, even though he loved you and thought you was the one, he dropping you. That's what a man is going to do if he decides. He might be wrong about this woman being his wife, but if in his mind...
Yeah, men are notorious for having placeholders. They'll make you a placeholder for 10 years. And what they'll also do in the process of making you a placeholder, an engagement ain't worth a damn either, because that's the ultimate placeholder. Because what they'll do have exactly, I'm telling you something, a man sometimes will have absolutely no intentions on marrying you. A lot of these women engagement done came about because this man was out doing wrong, or he did something and he know that she want to get married. So a lot of times, to satisfy her, he'll get engaged or whatever, knowing that he really don't want to marry her. That's a placeholder, because a woman definitely is going to start acting like she's married when she got an engagement. You engaged, you're not married, so a man, even in them cases,
I'm going to push back a little bit.
You can push back a little bit, but I'm going to tell you something. You can push back, but you're talking to somebody that done been engaged 3 times and I done been married once. So you can push back.
Well, here go my pushback.
You can push back, but I know what I'm talking about.
Here it is. I'm not saying you're not knowing what you're talking about. I'm not suggesting to you that, but I would highlight that it's very few men, partly to a degree, on how far you go with the engagement. Let me throw it out.
I ain't talking about the numbers. I'm just talking in general. I ain't saying all men doing it. I'm saying that's something.
I'm not. I wouldn't even put you in the all men. I don't even talk. I don't put people in this stream. So I'm not coming at you because you're suggesting.
Yeah, because I got to say something about this cheating thing, but you're trying to cover up for the city boys right now. Go ahead and cover up for the city boys.
Yeah, but I just want to highlight that an engagement is much above the boyfriend girlfriend. Like I don't want to just throw engagement in the same
Right. So
boat.
no, I'm not saying it
So
like
that's
that.
yeah,
What
yeah.
I'm
But,
saying is,
but that's not nitpick because we'll keep it short. So here it is. I'm not
yeah,
gonna nitpick it to that degree. I was just highlighting. I'm not saying that no men do what you said. So I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying for the most part, there if that includes buying of a ring, if that's what we're including, that's why I'm knowing a bunch of men ain't doing that part. They're not place holding, or whatever. Some men are buying rings, not completely sure about whether they ready or not. That happens way more. So
yeah,
that
that
situation
really
might
was
play out.
just emphasis to what you were saying.
Yeah, that's
That
fair.
really was just emphasis on not only can this happen, but this
Right.
can happen
Yeah,
as
that's fair.
well. So it was
That's
just
fair.
more
I
so
wouldn't disagree.
emphasis
That's
to
fair.
what you were saying.
Yep.
So also with because
One
I
last
used
thing,
to,
one thing. So I want to flip it. I want to say this because I said this to you on the show before. I want to make sure this all gets said. So while I'm telling you what men would easily do, I told you, remember, we talked about this on the show, why I wouldn't want my daughter to have a boyfriend. And what I said on that show, and I hope you remember this, was since I know that's what men are capable of doing, that's the exact game I want my daughter out there in. I want my daughter in the game with her head on the swivel, looking for her husband. So don't allow no Negro to make her a placeholder without full intentions. So I want her to play the exact same game. So our whole generation has been tricked into this idea of you can be committed to a boyfriend or girlfriend. The ultimate commitment is to step into marriage. So while I said on this show, I cheated on only one girlfriend when I was of the belief that most of our culture has been raised with. I cheated on that one girlfriend. Now, in hindsight, this ain't me just rationalizing my shit. In hindsight, you can't cheat on a boyfriend or girlfriend. I know that's real controversial, but you literally cannot do that.
You can, because the thing is, even in a marriage, people have to understand that marriage is like we get caught up in marriage and we look at it like it's just all based on love. Marriage is more contractual, like a business contract more so than anything. You could write your own vows. So for someone that is not part of that union, whatever that union is, to say, okay, well, you this is cheating or this ain't cheating, you could write your own vows. So the thing is, even before you get into, so if you feel like you just have to be faithful in a marriage, that's not necessarily the case, depending on what these people vow to. And the
But that's
same
not where I'm
thing,
coming from with it. I'm
but
not coming from
listen,
that. Go ahead.
the same thing with a boyfriend and girlfriend is this what you're saying gives me very much, I'm not gonna do wifely duties until he make me a wife type thing. That's kind of in that same vein that women be saying.
Well,
So,
that's where you're going with it, but I'm not.
I'm telling you how it sounds.
Go ahead.
So for me, when I hear that, it's certain things that a person have to present. It's certain things that a person has to show that makes them somebody that this person wants to marry. So the thing is there is a level of being exclusive that comes with leading up to marriage. There's levels to dating. So a part of dating is getting to that exclusive part where now before we jump out and get married, now we're going to test and see. We're finna, now is that trial area where, okay, can you be faithful or can you not be faithful? That's where I see that at. And then that's when I don't keep on going back and forth with you about you being faithful or not, or being on your ass about you being faithful. I just decide, hey, this is a guy that's not able to be faithful. Ain't no sense of me marrying him and expecting him to change. So there is a part in a boyfriend and girlfriend where you do get to being exclusive.
So what happens is that's the trick. That's the bullshit. That's the complete bullshit. So if we both agree, like I said, men are going to subconsciously do what I said. Women are culturally taught not to do this, but they should have the same mindset. Men are going to do it whether you teach it to them or not. We subconsciously understand if our wife comes along. So the faithfulness during the boyfriend, girlfriend stage don't even matter. It don't even matter. I'm talking about,
it does matter
let me
because if that person is cheating on you, you're gonna leave them.
It is. It don't matter because I'm gonna tell you how much it don't matter. You, a man can find a woman that's gonna be his wife and actually act completely different with her than he did with any girlfriend because she's the wife. Men do that all
They're
the
not
time.
married yet, though, Montoya.
So listen what I'm saying. So listen what I'm saying to you is So what you just said is the game for why you don't understand this complete bullshit. Since he's not married to his girlfriend, he could cheat as much as he like, and he may find the woman of his life and make her a wife and not even be a cheater. That happens for men that finally decide this is the woman that I'll be a wife to. So the judgment of him cheating on his girlfriends is a big ass joke when his wife, he might completely treat her different. So it's a complete joke that we're in a trial period of faithfulness in our boyfriend girlfriend situation when we both know that man, if his absolute wife comes along, he gone anyway. So it was a joke for her to time to time try to judge that and come to find out he don't see you as his wife.
Well, that's other factors that take into account when it comes to that. That's a particular case where a person has not looked at the red flags. That's what that is. Because
What
a
red
woman
flag?
that's in a whatever the red flags might be in a relationship. Because if it's a thing where this guy, you need to know, as if you're somebody and you're wanting to get married, then it's certain things that you're going to be looking for. It's certain conversations that you're going to be having. It's certain time frames that you're going to discuss. All of that stuff. So the thing is, if you're sitting around and you're being a placeholder at this particular point, it's because a lot of times you haven't figured out where you stand with this person.
You always a placeholder.
People don't just jump up and get married, though, Montoya. It's a process to being married.
Hey, the process that has worked very effectively for a lot of years ain't took no long time. Them long time boyfriend, girlfriend.
So that's what you need to say, that people shouldn't be a boyfriend and girlfriend for too long prior to getting married.
I'm saying, not only am I saying it, but I've watched people successfully marry without the process that we grew up in a culture where, again, I believe the boyfriend, girlfriend thing. Like I said, I foolishly said I ain't never cheated. But the reality is, either one of us could have moved on, and men do it all the time. And since that's such a reality,
but a boyfriend and girlfriend can always move on. You're not contractually binded. Yeah,
right.
I mean,
so that's why it becomes
no-brainer.
So it becomes so silly that you're committed in a situation you could just easily nothing holds you up. So you actually holding up, losing time in your life, and you could have met someone, because sometimes your commitment also keeps you from meeting others. That's what's how silly.
There's also there's levels of commitment as well, because
it ain't zero in a boyfriend girlfriend. That's the dumbest shit we ever bought into as a coach, and it's really costing people.
Montoya, you got to be a boyfriend and a girlfriend to even get an engagement. You got to get engaged. You have an engagement and you get married.
You go talk to people older than you and find out how long they was boyfriend girlfriends.
Montoya, I don't necessarily have to talk to somebody. Let me tell you something. My first fiance proposed to me in 3 months. My second fiance proposed to me in 9 months. I understand what it is that you're talking about. Okay. All at the same time. It's a process.
Okay, here it is.
It's still a process.
Oh, here it is. But the process, for example, when a man meets his wife, his process can go very quickly. That process looks very different than all the other girlfriends he had in his life.
But Montoya, this is what I don't like about what you're saying. This is the only thing I don't like about what you're saying, because we all know that when a man knows when he done found his woman, a man knows when that's his wife. You know that right off top. The same way we know we could see a man, it would be 2-3 minutes. We already know we gonna fuck him, but we still gonna make him go through this process, right? The same way a man will know that's the one.
So why would you ever be a boyfriend of a man who doesn't think you're the one? Why would you ever be his girlfriend?
No, Montoya, is what I'm saying is you're saying something that we already know, that a man knows when he knows. We already know that. But to say in the process, in the interim or whatever, that people shouldn't, they don't have any, there's no level of commitment, then that's not really. That's not going over well with me, because there is some type of different stages.
I was 43 by the time I realized you can't cheat on a boyfriend or girlfriend. It took me 43 years.
Well, I mean,
because at the end of the day, if you saying you know that a man will up and do that, why would you let your daughter be that man's placeholder and she ain't the one? Crazy.
My daughter gotta be she gotta have sense enough about herself not to be a play. Mama gonna tell her how you do this here,
right?
You know what I'm saying?
And you do that by not committing to
not to be a placeholder. But in the meantime, between time, you do want to know that this person could be faithful to you if that's what you're requiring.
Yeah, you don't find it out in the boyfriend girlfriend stage. People try to, but it's a fake stage to even try to learn it.
Yeah, but it's a fake stage that many of us participate in, and you're like the one of the few that
But like I said, the people. I learned this from a very successful marriage group, and it blew my mind because I had never even been exposed to it. And at the end of the day, again, this is if your goal is to be married. This doesn't apply to anybody. If you don't give a damn about being married, don't even listen to this shit, right? But if you care about being married, I learned this from successful marriages inside of a marriage group, and it blew my mind because I never thought about it. I've spent my life being faithful in boyfriend girlfriend situations myself. I now see it as completely foolish, but for the very reason that I just talked about. And here's the other part: if marriage is the goal for myself personally, or for you as an individual personally, the other part of it is that same thing can happen in marriage where the person goes and be unfaithful, right? But there ain't been no proving ground. And I'll say this, and I'm gonna read a piece from my book and get out this thing. So again, if somebody who looks at the numbers, if what we talked about, if boyfriend and girlfriend situation was a process that was necessary, then live-in people would have more successful marriages than two people who never lived each other. The divorce rates are the exact same. So even live-in people that play marriage all the way to the fullest of playing marriage, they are not having more success than people who have never lived together. So if people that live together ain't helping their process, and let's not act like we know marriage is going in the wrong direction, and we've been the boyfriend girlfriend culture. That ain't always been the case. That's a new phenomenon in human culture to be boyfriend and girlfriend. That's probably 70, 80 years old.
Okay, so Montoya, what I'm taking from this, you're talking about shacking.
No, I'm talking about boyfriend and girlfriend. I just gave you the ultimate example of if boyfriend girlfriend was a necessary process. I just gave you the ultimate example. Shacking should prove that it was better. Like people, because there's people that say, I can't get married if I don't live with the person first. I'm not even saying that individual is right or wrong for that individual. I'm not judging the individual who says that. But if this process was better, then the ultimate proof would be that people who shack should have a better stay together rate. I was using that as the ultimate example.
There's a whole lot of different factors that's
tied. Of course it is. Of course it is.
I'm not a whole lot of different factors.
I'm just saying, if the process was proven so well, we would see more success. Yeah. Older generations they didn't do boyfriend girlfriends. They dated and engaged to be married if that's what their goals was. And the courting process was a courting process. It was not a boyfriend girlfriend process.
Yeah, but you don't want to set the tone that it's okay to be running around here messing around just because you're not married and you done decided you
heard messing around with somebody. Yeah, you heard messing around. What I'm saying is don't be placeholding yourself.
If you're gonna be dating, you be dating, but don't make nobody feel like it's exclusive and it's not, and you're just dating around. That's basically what needs to be put out there. If that is the case, if you're gonna carry it about that way, then it just, if you date till you find who you want to be with, don't be trying to make anything exclusive and give these false pretenses. Other than that, if you done made it seem like we together, whatever, and we're leading up to marriage, then there's gonna be some guidelines that gonna come with it.
Well, like I said, leading up to marriage is a different conversation than just choosing to be somebody's boyfriend, choosing to be somebody's girlfriend. We're spending a lot of time choosing boyfriend and girlfriends in our lives, a complete BS process.
So basically, you should be dating with a purpose.
Absolutely. Like like I said, I'm still standing on my daughter gonna get the game or why she shouldn't have a boyfriend. I'm talking about somebody that's all they're trying to be at this time because it's just what you do at this stage in your life. No, baby, the girl, keep your head on the swivel, just like I know he's doing, whether he means it or not. He can sincerely mean he's gonna be faithful. I'm not suggesting that he's necessarily gonna cheat even in the boyfriend or girlfriend, but I now see it as a completely silly process. Boyfriend, girlfriend is a new process in the human experience, and it's silly. But again, I'm standing on it because I got taught this from someone, and I couldn't move from the logic because I've done everything opposite of what I'm telling you most of my life. I now see it as foolish for these reasons. So a lot of times people are just being boyfriend and girlfriend with the idea that eventually we may get married. That's what a lot of people are wasting time doing. There is no commitment in that situation. Don't be fooled by even the person who presents it to you, which is typically us. Or sometimes the girl is pressuring it. So the guy, I've did this myself. The one girl, matter of fact, let me get it. I didn't even think about this. The one time I cheated, guess how I cheated?
How?
So the young lady was a virgin. I was her first. But to be her first, she wasn't going to do it without somebody that was her boyfriend. I was in a situation. So it is. I was in a situation where I was in the military, went away in basic training. So I'm, young, dumb, full of calm. And this is my first time being without sex for a minute because I'm in basic training in the military. So at the time, look, first, I got another brother want to jump on this thing. So you know how we do at the age. I'm going to knock you off real quick to put the other person on real quick. And I'll keep you in the back and bring you back. So sharing the scenario was sharing the scenario because of my scenario where I'm coming out of high school, young, dumb, full of cum, used to getting sex, and I'm going through basic training. She put that pressure to say, hey, I'm only going to deal with somebody if they're my boyfriend. I know the situation at the time, this is my first sister out of basic training. So I absolutely said, I'll be your boyfriend. As soon as I got through the school year and got privileges, can go out into the city and see other women, I mess around, cheat, come back, break up with her. She don't even know I cheated. But I'm just saying the only reason I even became the boyfriend was because of the pressure of having a situation. And I'm just saying I did that specific thing. And I'm just telling you that the game of being a boyfriend or girlfriend is not typically a win in most cases. I got my man Clive on to jump in here, so I'm going to let him jump in real quick. I typically try to get this thing out of here, man, but I'm going to let you give us your 3 cents this evening. Go ahead, brother. I got you.
Nah, you good, money. I came in about. I'm sorry. I should have jumped on the live. I didn't hear the whole conversation. The last part where you said about the boyfriend and girlfriend, right? That it was a contrived situation. You're saying?
Yeah, I'm saying our generation has been tricked into believing that boyfriend and girlfriend has a form of commitment. It's a huge trick that has never existed prior to the last 70, 80 years, where we even have situations where you have a boyfriend or girlfriend or have had several girlfriends or several boyfriends in your lifetime, and you actually thought there was some sense of commitment, when the reality is, had either one of you found your husband or wife, you would have been out of that boyfriend, girlfriend, quick, fast, in a hurry. So the idea of being committed is actually a joke in the boyfriend, girlfriend setup. It's a joke on the whole dating experience. I learned this from a marriage group. I only speak so strongly on it because I learned this from them. I never thought about it until about 5 years ago. And I think their logic is actually right. I think what I've been doing most of my life up until that point was wrong. Go ahead, brother.
Well, okay. I'm so on that point right there. I think that because the whole institution of marriage has come down to, first is like everybody's trying to find love. You see what I'm saying? And I think that that's only in recent history has everybody gotten in married for love. You know, I love you, you love me. Most of the time in history, it was because people, you had to be approved by their family. They had to be, even not in arranged marriages, right? Even if you met somebody, right? So, and this goes back into history only because because when you join families, right? You're joining families when you get married. You're locked in, right? This is why it's hard to get divorced. This is why divorce was frowned upon, things like that, because of the commitment. It wasn't just you and her. And a lot of times now, what do people say? Stay out of my, and this goes in a whole bunch of things in life, right? Out of the village aspect, where people are like, stay out of my business. You don't have nothing to do with that. But I'm like, no, back in the day, everybody had something to do with that. You see? Everybody has something to do with that business. So now we're looking for love, and I just believe it's a Disney fairy tale that has been given to us as what love is. And so when we, commitment, anything, it's like starting a business, right? I always bring it back to business because I think about it, but people get excited about the business, right? But then when you get into business, you're like, oh, there's a lot of work. I got to learn some skills that I don't have. I ain't know how to do marketing. I ain't know how to do sales. I got to learn, you're like, there's a whole bunch of things. This is a lot of work. This ain't the fun that I thought it was in my idea. In my head, I thought it was supposed to be a honeymoon the whole time. So the idea of commitment, just that whole word, has been taken out of the lexicon of everything. So that's my 3 cents on it.
Hey, I love it. Deasia, any thoughts? I'm gonna bring you out for mute, and I'm gonna let you do the closing thoughts before I read this piece from my book. Thank you, Clyde, for jumping on this thing, man. That's what the Just My 3 Cents podcast is. You can jump on and give us your 3 cents too. All right, Deasia, your last thought. I think Clyde was saying a lot of some of what you were starting to say as well. So I'm pretty sure you relate to that.
Yeah,
Wait a minute, go ahead, Queen.
His point spot on. Like, I mean, he speaks my sentiments fully. As far as how people actually, actually look at marriage, and I do feel that because of, we could discuss, how it was and how it used to be. It just ain't like that no more. We evolve and things change, so we can't kind of judge our current situation on what it done evolved into something else. You know what I'm saying? So now we have to play by those particular rules, and we just have to continue to have these type of conversations to where it make it possible for more people are open to the idea of, getting married and understanding what it is, because a lot of how society is going right now, what marriage actually was based on in the beginning, is not necessarily important for those things for people anymore. So that is because, like, love is like what takes precedent as to why people get married now, because you have so many people they're cool with being independent and all this old kind of stuff, and the way our society is structured now, to where, like the institution of marriage has actually changed. So we have to be willing to accept that as well. And I feel like at this particular time, everybody is playing by their own rules.
Yeah, but I think as I always say, is a risk, because marriage was always, especially for maybe, everybody understands that, like, the kings and queens would marry, and for power and all that kind of stuff. But people lose sight that even common people, if you will, right, or historically, 85, if that's 85% of the people, whatever, they still had some structure to the marriage, and marriage was about the children. It was about the legacy, and so because we've kind of lose sight of that, that's why things have changed, and the only thing that has hurt has been the children, and we're the generation that has been raised in the results, unfortunately, of the last 50, 60, 70 years. And so that's how we've gotten lost in some of these things that are not going to help when it comes to the very things we were saying in the very beginning of this. Why would you give up an entire situation that you might could work through? But the reason people will consider it now is because of the stuff y'all are talking about right now. The fairy tale, what it should be. This person cheated on me. And again, not disagreeing with somebody who's overly hurt or that is their deal breaker, but it's become the deal breaker only in the new age because we're doing it for ourselves. In the past, the only reason two people would ever even consider staying together for that long, because it ain't easy to stay with two people, even if you're just best friends sometimes, right? You're best friends, but typically y'all don't live together, right? Typically you don't live together. So you can take your best friend of this, whatever, and living together is hard anyway. So typically the only reason you would make it is another commitment, and that's the children that you're birthing. So once you lose the connection of how important that was to marriage in the past, and we've lost that, that's why the dynamic is what you see out here, the agent. So it has changed, but it hasn't changed. The need hasn't changed for what it means to children. That's what we've lost more than anything in these discussions. So thank you, Queen, for jumping on with me. You're looking good. Let me highlight this since I got you on. It's kind of cool. This is my first time announcing the new name for the book. I changed the name thanks to your advice. So since you're here, let me give you big props or whatever. So this podcast is called Just My 3 Cents Podcast. I started promoting it as I was looking to start promoting my upcoming book by the same name, Just My 3 Cents Podcast. Oh, Nikki from look, this might be Nikki from the show on for Saturday. I'm gonna get home real quick. Y'all keeping me on. I'm trying to get off of y'all keeping me on, but hey, let's keep rocking. Hey, what's up, Queen?
What's going on? What's going on?
So I'm about to shut the thing down, but I'll let you get here real quick. But I'll say this.
That was the one that was on.
Yeah. Y'all can meet face to face.
Hey, girl.
What's up, Queen? How are you?
I'm well. How you doing?
Good. Been running. I just got home. Sorry.
Okay. Well, you looking good.
Thank you. What's up, Queen? What's up, Queen? I'm sorry. I ain't gonna hold you. I'm just gonna catch the little bit.
Okay, you just watching it. I thought you. Okay, I didn't know if you wanted to jump on and say something. So it's all good.
I'm just watching.
Okay, cool. I got you. All right. So anyway, So I wanted to highlight and thank Deasia for the new name change. I had a chapter in the book that this was a chapter in the book, and Deasia heard that name of that chapter. She was like, Montoya, you need to change the name. I ain't even fight with her because she was so right. So the new name for the upcoming book is moved from basically the full name was Necessary Conversations, Just My 3 cents on Race, Sex, and Culture. The new name is Necessary Conversations on Race, Sex, and Culture. That's just a pre-title. The actual title is Re-Education of the Negro. So thank you, Queen, for helping me commit to this new name change. And so now I got to spend money to change the cover, but it's worth it. So I'll give you props.
I'm telling you, re-education of the Negro gonna hit way harder than Just My 3 cents.
Hey, don't be knocking my Just My 3 cents.
Knocking it, but it's
yeah,
cute.
It's cute. I gave it.
Cute. We still gonna rock with the hashtag or whatever.
You got to admit, I just roll with you. So
you did, because you really usually it'd be hard to get you to kind of change a little bit. So I'm like, by that time, I end up having to leave in tears or something, then come back. But we figure it out. But re-education of the Negro, yes, that's gonna blow. Watch.
All right. I was now that you're giving it props, I was gonna try to read a piece that related to tonight's show, but I'm gonna go ahead and let people hear the first piece because you've heard this already, and so people know how hard this book gonna hit. So Deasia heard the name and said you need to change it, and this is the piece that I shared with her, which is the first piece from the book. I had planned to read another piece tonight that was related to the subject, but I'm gonna go ahead and make sure people understand that if you like that name, we ain't playing. So this is the first piece in the book. First piece in the book is, matter of fact, Deasia, I'm gonna take y'all off while I close it out.
Okay.
Thank you, Queen, for coming on with me.
You're welcome, and I'm so proud of you.
All right, thank you. All right, y'all, let me read this piece. First piece out of the upcoming book, Re-Education of a Negro, and we're closing out the Just My 3 Cents podcast. So the first piece is called Black Socrates Speaks, Black to the Future. After 400 years of this bullshit, it's time we lay the foundation for the solutions we so desperately desire. Stop saying things are still the same, hoping to invoke a fix-it-right-now mentality, when the truth is we can only win if we play the long game. Understand the game today orients us to instant gratification, which means the discipline needed to set up the next generation is rendered non-existent. There are some who are so action-oriented that they never consider stepping back to reset our mindset first by properly putting our history into context. To take off running without knowing how far we've come or we must go doesn't make a lot of sense. Also, many scream our race is at war, when in actuality, we are currently involved in a Cold War requiring completely different tactics. Think of Haiti after their successful revolution in 1804. However, the Cold War tactics enacted by the French thereafter severely handicapped their economic system in the long run. Haiti went from one of the richest countries in the Western Hemisphere at the time of the transatlantic enslavement trade to one of the poorest today. Truth is, the game is global now, and race, as we understood it, is becoming a thing of the distant past. Although as African Americans, we cannot ignore race because this made-up social construct unfortunately still has real life or death consequences for us. However, with the hyper-focus on STEM, ownership, and healthy marriage before children, culturally, we can transcend the majority of oppression that will leave behind the non-producers, regardless of race, in the new global economy. Remember, we can only act right if we think right. And at the Mental Dialogue Community Club, we welcome perspectives that force us to critically think for ourselves. If we can help you improve the conversation you have inside your own mind, a paradigm shift will take place, and self-improvement betters the entire community. Just my 3 cents. All I ask is that you think. All right, y'all. Hope we made it make sense. See y'all next Wednesday. Salute.